The deep space monitoring station floated silently in the shadow of a massive gas giant. Inside, Supreme Analyst Vector stared at his screens with growing curiosity. Something had just entered their surveillance zone, and it was big. Unknown vessel detected. His assistant called out from across the chamber. It's heading through our territory on a straight course. Vector's three eyes focused on the image appearing on the main display. The ship was enormous, easily the size of a Vrexian cruiser. But something about it looked wrong. The hull plating seemed crude and simple. The design was blocky and inefficient. This looked like something from the ancient times before proper civilizations learned to build real starships. Run an identification scan, Vector ordered, leaning back in his chair. The Vrexian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had seen every type of ship imaginable. This one must be from some lost colony, drifting through space without guidance. The computer worked for a moment, then displayed its results. Unknown origin. Unknown design. No match in any database. Vector felt a flutter of excitement in his chest. This could be an actual discovery. Perhaps some primitive species had finally managed to build a vessel capable of crossing between stars. How amusing. They probably thought they were so advanced. Begin a full military-grade scan, he said. I want to know everything about this ship. How it's powered. What weapons it carries. How many crew members it holds. Catalog everything. His assistant hesitated. Sir, military scans are considered aggressive acts. If they detect it, they might view it as hostile. Vector laughed, a sound like grinding stones. Look at that thing. It's barely holding together. They probably don't even have sensors good enough to detect our scan. And if they do, what are they going to do about it? We're the Vrexian Empire. We've conquered 100 worlds. Let them complain. The scan began, invisible waves of energy washing over the strange vessel. Vector watched the data start to pour in, expecting simple readings and primitive technology. Meanwhile, aboard the human battleship Defiant Dawn, alarms suddenly screamed to life. Commander Taman looked up from his reports as red lights flashed across the bridge. Report, he said calmly, though his hand moved to the armrest controls. Lieutenant Hana worked quickly at her tactical station, her fingers flying across the holographic displays. Active military scan detected, sir. High intensity, full spectrum analysis. Someone is scanning every inch of our hull. Origin? Taman asked. Tracking now. It's coming from a space station orbiting the fourth planet. Computer identifies the signature as Vrexian. Hana looked up, worry crossing her face. Sir, the Vrexians are known for their aggressive expansion policies. They might view us as a threat. Taman studied the tactical display, watching the scan waves ripple across their ship. The Vrexians. Humanity had learned about them from other species, but this was their first direct contact. According to the reports, the Vrexians believed they were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They had never encountered a species they considered equal. A thin smile crossed Taman's face. Sir, should we activate countermeasures? Hana asked. We can jam their scan or initiate evasive maneuvers. Taman shook his head slowly. No, let them scan. Let them see everything. Hana blinked in surprise. Sir? You heard me, Lieutenant. Drop all stealth fields. If they want to look, let's give them a good, clear view of what a human battleship really is. Taman leaned forward in his chair, his eyes fixed on the display showing the Vrexian station. Sometimes the best weapon is knowledge. Let them learn what they're dealing with. But sir, if they see our full capabilities, then maybe they'll think twice before making a mistake, Taman finished. Humanity didn't survive 400 years in hostile space by hiding. We survived by making sure everyone knows what we can do. Continue on our current course. If they want a fight, we'll give them one. If they want peace, we'll give them that instead. But either way, they're going to learn that humans are not prey. Hana nodded and relayed the orders. Around the ship, stealth systems powered down. The full signature of the Defiant Dawn appeared on sensors like a star being born. Back on the monitoring station, Vector's computers suddenly went into overdrive. The amount of data coming from the scan increased 100-fold. His screens filled with information, scrolling faster than he could read. What is this? He muttered, leaning closer. Why is there so much data? His assistant hurried over, looking at the readings. Sir, I think their stealth systems just shut down. We're seeing the real ship now. Vector felt a cold sensation in his gut. Stealth systems? He looked at the power readings appearing on his screen. The numbers couldn't be right. They had to be wrong. Run a diagnostic on the scanners, he ordered. These readings are impossible. Diagnostic running. Sir, the scanners are working perfectly. These readings are accurate. Vector stared at the screen. The reactor output alone was beyond anything the Vrexian Empire could produce. And that was just the beginning. His hands started to shake slightly as he scrolled through the weapons systems data. Get Fleet Commander Kixral on the communication channel, Vector said quietly. Right now. Sir, the Fleet Commander is in a strategic meeting. I don't care if he's speaking with the Empress herself. Vector shouted. Get him now. We have a situation. The assistant scrambled to make the connection. While he waited, Vector continued reading the scan data. Each new detail made his blood run colder. The ship had enough firepower to destroy planets. Its hull was made of materials that should be impossible to manufacture. Its engines could push it to speeds that defied current physics. And most terrifying of all, the internal layout showed space for 12,000 crew members. 12,000. If this was a small ship, what did their big ones look like? The communication screen flickered to life, showing Fleet Commander Kixral's angry face. This better be important, analyst. I was in the middle of... We need to talk about the unknown vessel, Vector interrupted. Sir, I think we just made a terrible mistake. Kixral's expression shifted from anger to concern. What kind of mistake? Vector took a deep breath. The kind that could end our empire. On the bridge of Defiant Dawn, Taman watched the Vrexian station on his display. He could imagine the panic starting to set in over there. Good. Let them panic. Let them understand, sir, Hana said softly. They're going to be afraid now. Yes, Taman agreed. Fear can lead to two things, Lieutenant. Wisdom or stupidity. Let's hope they choose wisdom. The battleship continued through space, its path unwavering, its presence now fully known. Behind them, the Vrexian Empire was about to learn that humanity was not what they expected. Not at all. Fleet Commander Kixral arrived at the analysis chamber within minutes. His 4 legs carried him quickly through the corridors, his military uniform crisp and decorated with medals from a dozen conquered worlds. He had fought in 30 battles and never lost a single one. But the fear in Vector's voice had made something twist in his stomach. Show me, Kixral demanded as he entered the room. Vector gestured to the main display where data scrolled endlessly. Sir, we detected an unknown vessel and performed a standard military scan. At first it looked primitive. Old design, simple construction. But then something changed. Their stealth systems deactivated and we saw the truth. What truth? Kixral moved closer to the screens. They let us scan them, sir. They wanted us to see what they really are. Vector pulled up the weapons analysis. These aren't primitive weapons. These railguns can fire projectiles at 15% of light speed. Their point defense grid can track and eliminate thousands of targets simultaneously. And these, he pointed to a section of the display, these are antimatter torpedo bays. Kixral felt his blood turn cold. Antimatter weapons were theoretical. The Vrexian Empire had been trying to develop them for centuries without success. You're certain? The computer has run the analysis 17 times. Each time the same result. Vector pulled up more data. Their reactor produces enough power to run our entire capital city. Their hull isn't simple plating. It's layered neutronium composite with what appears to be self-repairing nanotechnology. Senior scientist Thexara rushed into the room, her breathing rapid. She had been analyzing the data from her own station. Commander, you need to see this. I've been studying their ship's internal structure. The crew capacity is enormous. 12,000 personnel. Kixral turned to her. That's impossible. A ship that size couldn't hold that many. It can if every centimeter is used efficiently, Thexara said. She brought up a holographic model of the ship. Look at this. Multiple decks. Rotating sections for artificial gravity. Backup systems for the backup systems. This ship is designed to fight even when heavily damaged. It can lose half its structure and still remain operational. What classification is this vessel? Kixral asked. Battleship. Dreadnought? Thexara and Vector exchanged glances. Vector spoke quietly. According to the markings we've translated, sir, this is a destroyer-class vessel. One of their small ships. The room fell silent. Kixral stared at the hologram, his mind refusing to accept what he was hearing. A destroyer? This is their small ship? Yes, sir, Vector confirmed. which means their actual battleships must be. He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Kixeral walked slowly to the display, studying every detail. He had commanded fleets that conquered star systems. He had faced enemies who fought with courage and skill, but he had never seen anything like this. Who are they? What species builds ships like this? Vector worked his controls, bringing up the limited information they had gathered. The ship's name translates to Defiant Dawn. The language database suggests they call themselves humans. They come from a planet they call Earth. Find everything we have on these humans, Kixeral ordered. Search every database. Contact our intelligence networks. I want to know everything about them. While Vector worked, Thexara continued her analysis. Commander, there's something else. The ship's course hasn't changed. They detected our scan. They know we're watching them, but they're not altering their path or showing any sign of concern. Confidence or arrogance? Kixeral wondered aloud. With capabilities like this, maybe both, Thexara replied. Aboard the Defiant Dawn, Chief Engineer Minho stood in the engine room, watching the massive reactors hum with controlled power. His team worked around him, maintaining the systems that kept the battleship running. He received the report about the Vrexian scan and smiled. Let them look, he said to his assistant. Let them see what human engineering can do. On the bridge, Lieutenant Hanna monitored the Vrexian station closely. Sir, they've increased their communication traffic significantly. Multiple encrypted channels all active. Commander Taemin nodded. They're reporting what they found. Probably calling for instructions. He stood and walked to the main viewport, looking out at the stars. How long until we clear their territory? 3 hours at current speed, sir. Good. Maintain course and speed. Weapons remain powered down, but ready. I want us to appear peaceful, but not weak. Hanna worked her controls. Understood, sir. Though I should mention, our weapons are never truly powered down. Even in standby mode, we can fire within 2 seconds. That's what I love about human engineering, Taemin said with a slight smile. We don't believe in being unprepared. Back on the monitoring station, Vector had finally gathered some basic information about humanity. What he found made the situation worse. Commander, he called to Kixeral. I found their homeworld in our old survey databases. It's classified as a death world. Class 9 hazard rating. Kixeral turned sharply. Class 9? That's the highest rating. What makes it so dangerous? Everything, sir. Gravity is 0.2 higher than standard. The atmosphere has violent weather patterns. The planet has active tectonic plates causing constant earthquakes, multiple extinction events in its history, aggressive predator species in every environment. Vector scrolled through the data. No one colonizes death worlds, Commander. They're too hostile for civilization to develop. Yet somehow these humans evolved there, Kixeral said quietly. Natural selection on a death world. No wonder they build ships like fortresses. Thexara pulled up more information. Sir, I found records of their space history. They've been spacefaring for only 400 years. In that time, they've survived 3 extinction-level threats, 2 civil wars, and first contact with 6 different hostile species. 400 years? Kixeral repeated. We've been in space for 6,000 years, and they've achieved this level of technology in 400? They appear to be exceptionally adaptable, Thexara explained. Every conflict made them stronger. Every threat pushed them to innovate. Their entire culture seems built around the concept of survival through preparation. Kixeral felt a decision forming in his mind. It was not the decision he wanted to make, but military logic demanded it. If these humans were as powerful as they appeared, the Vrexian Empire needed to establish dominance immediately, show them that despite their impressive technology, the Empire was still in control of this region. Contact Destroyer Squadrons 7, 9, and 12, Kixeral ordered. Have them intercept the human vessel. Use standard challenge protocols. They are to force the ship to stop for diplomatic talks. Vector looked up in alarm. Sir, is that wise? Given what we've seen, I've made my decision, Analyst, Kixeral said firmly. 3 of our destroyers against 1 of theirs. Even with their technology, they won't risk a fight when outnumbered. We'll establish our authority, then we can talk peacefully. Vector wanted to argue, but military discipline kept him silent. He sent the orders, watching as 3 Vrexian destroyer squadrons changed course to intercept the human ship. On the bridge of Defiant Dawn, alarms chimed softly. Hanna checked her displays. Sir, 3 Vrexian destroyers have just dropped out of hyperspace. They're moving to intercept us. Taemin returned to his command chair. Are they powering weapons? Not yet, sir. But they're taking up attack positions around us. Taemin nodded slowly. So they chose stupidity over wisdom. Unfortunate. He pressed a button on his armrest. All hands, this is the commander. Prepare for possible hostile contact. I hope we can resolve this peacefully, but hope isn't a strategy. Stay sharp. Throughout the ship, 12,000 human crew members moved to battle stations, their training and discipline evident in every action. The Defiant Dawn had been scanned. The Vrexians thought they understood what they were facing. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Raxmill commanded the lead Vrexian destroyer with pride. He had served the Empire for 20 years, fought in a dozen battles, and never retreated. When the orders came to intercept the human vessel, he felt confident. 3 destroyers against 1 unknown ship. The odds were clearly in his favor. His 3 vessels surrounded the human battleship in a triangle formation, each one positioned to strike if needed. The human ship looked even more impressive up close, but Raxmill trusted his orders and his training. Open a communication channel, Raxmill ordered. All frequencies. The channel opened and Raxmill spoke with the authority of the Vrexian Empire behind him. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Raxmill of the Vrexian Imperial Fleet. You are traveling through territory under our protection. Power down your weapons systems and prepare to be boarded for diplomatic inspection. Failure to comply will be considered a hostile act. On the bridge of Defiant Dawn, Commander Taemin listened to the transmission with a calm expression. Around him, his crew waited for orders. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Lieutenant Hana, threat assessment, Taemin said. Hana studied her tactical displays. 3 Vrexian destroyers, sir. Each one is roughly 60% of our size. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based cannons and conventional missiles. Their shields are moderate strength. Computer estimates we could disable all 3 in under 30 seconds with full weapons deployment. And without full deployment? Hana worked her controls. We could still disable them in under 5 seconds with kinetic weapons only, sir. Taemin nodded. He pressed the communication button. Captain Raxmill, this is Commander Taemin of the human vessel Defiant Dawn. We are on a peaceful reconnaissance mission through neutral space. We have no intention of entering your core territory. We respectfully decline your request to board our vessel. We will continue on our current course. On his bridge, Raxmill felt anger rising. How dare this single ship refuse his orders? He looked at his tactical officer. Show me their weapons status. Their weapons are powered down, Captain. Only basic defensive systems are active, Raxmill smiled. They were afraid, as they should be. Time to press the advantage. Unknown vessel, this is your final warning. Power down immediately or we will open fire. You have 30 seconds to comply. His weapons officer looked at him. Sir, shall I activate weapons? Yes, all 3 ships. Lock targeting solutions on their engines and weapons arrays. If they don't comply, we'll cripple them and then board. All 3 Vrexian destroyers lit up with power signatures as their weapons systems came online. Targeting lasers painted the hull of Defiant Dawn. On the monitoring station, Vector watched the confrontation through long-range sensors. His hands gripped the edge of his console. This is a mistake, he whispered. Kixeral, what have you done? Fleet Commander Kixeral stood beside him, watching the same displays. Raxmill knows what he's doing. 3 against 1. The human ship will surrender. But sir, the scan data, I've seen the data analyst. Yes, they have impressive technology. But technology means nothing without the will to use it. They're in our territory, surrounded by our ships. They'll back down. Vector wanted to believe that. He desperately wanted to believe that. On Defiant Dawn, the targeting lasers were detected immediately. Red warnings lit up across the tactical displays. Lieutenant Hana looked at Commander Taemin. Sir, they've locked weapons on us. I'm reading power buildups in their cannons. They're preparing to fire. Taemin sighed deeply. He had hoped for wisdom. He had hoped these Vrexians would recognize the danger and back down. But hope, as he often said, was not a strategy. Weapons Officer Jiwan, Taemin said calmly. Show them why threatening a human warship is a bad idea. Non-lethal response. Disable only. Weapons Officer Jiwan had been waiting for those words. Her fingers moved across her controls with practiced ease. Aye, sir. Targeting solutions locked. EMP-tipped kinetic rounds loaded. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Firing now. The Defiant Dawn barely shuddered as it fired. 3 rounds, each one accelerated to 5% of light speed, launched from different points on the hull. The rounds were small, dense, and moved so fast that most sensors couldn't track them properly. Captain Raxmill never saw them coming. The computer calculated that the rounds would cross the distance to his ship in 0.8 seconds. His point defense system needed at least 2 seconds to identify, track, and engage incoming threats. The math was simple and brutal. The first round hit Raxmill's destroyer in the center of its engineering section. The kinetic impact was minimal, but the electromagnetic pulse that erupted was catastrophic. Every electrical system on the ship died instantly. Lights went dark. Computers shut down. Life support switched to backup batteries. The ship went completely silent, floating dead in space. The second and third rounds hit the other 2 Vrexian destroyers with identical results. All 3 ships disabled in less than 1 second. On the monitoring station, Vector watched in frozen horror as 3 Imperial destroyers simply stopped functioning. No explosion, no visible damage. They just died. What happened? Kixrel demanded. What did they do? I don't know, sir. The ships are still intact, but all their systems are offline. Vector worked frantically at his controls. I'm not detecting any casualties, but the vessels are completely powerless. Kixrel stared at the display. The human ship hadn't even powered up its weapons. The energy spike from their attack was so small it was barely noticeable. They had disabled 3 military vessels with what appeared to be minimum effort. Get me a communication channel to that human ship, Kixrel ordered. Right now. On Defiant Dawn, another transmission came through. This time it was Commander Taman who spoke first. Captain Raxmill, your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. We could have destroyed you, but we chose not to. We are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. Consider this a lesson about making assumptions based on appearances. Raxmill sat in darkness on his bridge, emergency lights casting red shadows across the walls. His crew worked frantically to restart systems, but nothing was responding. He could hear the fear in their voices. They had been defeated so quickly and completely that it felt unreal. This is Commander Taman to any Vrexian authority monitoring this space. Taman continued. We are continuing on our course. We will leave your territory in approximately 2 hours. We strongly suggest you do not attempt to stop us again. The next response may not be as gentle. G1 looked at her commander. Sir, I should mention that I had antimatter torpedoes locked on all 3 ships as a backup. If the kinetic rounds had failed, I was ready to fire. Taman nodded. Good work, Lieutenant. But I'm glad we didn't need them. Mercy is preferable to destruction. Chief Engineer Minho's voice came through the internal communication system. Bridge, this is engineering. I'm reading some stress on the forward kinetic launchers. Nothing serious, but we should run a diagnostic after this is over. Understood, Minho. We'll schedule it once we're clear of this area. Defiant Dawn engaged its engines, moving smoothly forward. The 3 disabled Vrexian destroyers fell behind, floating helplessly in space. Inside each one, crews worked desperately to restore power, knowing that a rescue mission would take hours to arrive. On the monitoring station, Fleet Commander Kixrel felt something he had not felt in many years, genuine fear. He watched the human ship move away, its course unwavering, its power signature steady. They had disabled 3 military vessels without even trying hard. Get me the High Council, Kixrel said quietly. We need to discuss this immediately. Vector looked at his commander. What will you tell them, sir? Kixrel watched the human ship disappear from their sensors as it moved out of range. The truth. We have encountered a species that could destroy us, and we have no idea how many ships they have or what they're really capable of. This was just one destroyer. Imagine what their real battleships can do. The room fell silent as that thought settled over everyone present. Aboard Defiant Dawn, Lieutenant Hanna monitored the area behind them. Sir, the Vrexian ships are not pursuing. Their station has gone quiet. I think we made our point. Commander Taman leaned back in his chair. Let's hope we made the right impression. Fear can lead to war just as easily as it can lead to peace. We'll need to be careful going forward. Do you think they'll want to talk, sir? Hanna asked. They'd be smart too, Taman replied. But whether they choose wisdom or pride remains to be seen. Either way, we've done our part. We showed them what we can do. Now we wait to see what they do with that information. The battleship continued through space, leaving behind 3 disabled vessels, and one very worried Vrexian empire. The message had been delivered clearly. Humanity was not prey. They were predators who preferred peace but were perfectly capable of war. The question was whether the Vrexians were smart enough to understand the difference. 6 months had passed since the incident with the Defiant Dawn. The joint human-Vrexian research station floated in neutral space, a symbol of the growing cooperation between two vastly different civilizations. The station was a marvel of combined engineering, featuring both human and Vrexian design elements working together in harmony. Dr. Hyun, a human xenobiologist, walked through the station's central corridor toward the shared laboratory. She had been working with her Vrexian counterpart, Counselor Pixtech, on a comparative study of their two species. The project had revealed fascinating insights about how different evolutionary paths led to different approaches to survival. "Good morning, Pixtech," Hyun said as she entered the lab. The Vrexian scientist looked up from her work, her 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "Good morning, Dr. Hyun. I was just reviewing the latest data on human physical capabilities. It's quite remarkable." Hyun set down her equipment and smiled. "Remarkable or terrifying, depending on your perspective." Pixtech made a sound that was the Vrexian equivalent of laughter. "Both, perhaps. I must admit, when we first encountered your species, many of us were frightened by what we saw." "Fear is a natural response to the unknown," Hyun replied, beginning to set up her workstation. "We humans have experienced it ourselves many times. It's what you do with that fear that matters." Over the past months, cultural exchanges had become regular occurrences. Vrexian students studied at human universities. Human scientists collaborated with Vrexian researchers. Trade routes had opened, bringing prosperity to both civilizations. But more importantly, both sides were learning to understand each other. "I've been curious about something," Pixtech said carefully. "Your ship, the Defiant Dawn, disabled 3 of our destroyers with such ease. Yet your ambassador and your commander both seemed reluctant to discuss the full extent of human military capabilities. Why the secrecy?" Hyun paused in her work. "May I speak candidly?" "Please do." "Our entire project is built on honest exchange. Humanity learned early in our space exploration that showing all your capabilities immediately can be dangerous. Some species might see it as a challenge. Others might become paranoid and aggressive. We prefer to reveal our strength gradually as trust builds." "But you revealed enough to make us cautious," Pixtech observed. "Exactly. We wanted the Vrexian Empire to know we weren't easy prey. But we didn't want to terrify you into desperation. Desperate people make terrible decisions." Hyun sat down, her expression thoughtful. "We've seen what happens when species feel cornered. They lash out even when it means their destruction." Pixtech was quiet for a moment. "The Vrexian Empire has been the dominant power in this region for 3,000 years. We had become arrogant. We assumed our technology and our military strength made us invincible. Then we met you. And realized you weren't alone at the top anymore," Hyun finished gently. "It was humbling," Pixtech admitted. "Some members of our leadership wanted war. They couldn't accept that another species could match us. But Empress Frixana understood that pride is meaningless if everyone is dead." Hyun nodded. "Your Empress showed real wisdom. Not every leader can admit when they're wrong." Meanwhile, in another section of the station, a very different conversation was taking place. Commander Taemin stood in a meeting room with his senior officers, reviewing the past 6 months through a classified briefing. The room was secure, swept for monitoring devices, and completely private. "I want everyone's honest assessment," Taemin said, looking at his assembled crew. "How do we think this alliance is developing?" Lieutenant Hana spoke first. "The Vrexians are genuinely interested in peace, sir. Their cultural exchange programs are legitimate. They're sharing technology and information freely. I believe they see us as potential allies rather than threats." Chief Engineer Minho added his thoughts. "Their engineering is solid, though different from ours. They've had 6,000 years to refine their designs. We can learn from their experience while they can benefit from our innovation. It's a good trade." Weapons Officer Ji-Wan was more cautious. "We should maintain our readiness, sir. Peace is good, but we can't afford to let our guard down. They outnumber us significantly in total ships." Taemin nodded. "I agree completely. Which brings me to something I need to share with all of you. This information is classified, but you deserve to know the full picture." He activated a holographic display showing the human fleet disposition. "When we encountered the Vrexians 6 months ago, we made a calculated decision. We let them scan us. We showed them what a human destroyer could do. But we didn't tell them everything. The display showed a detailed breakdown of human military capabilities. The numbers were staggering. We currently have 47 destroyer-class ships like Defiant Dawn, Taemin explained. We have 23 cruisers, each one 3 times the size and power of a destroyer. We have 8 battleships, each one capable of fighting entire fleets. And we have 3 dreadnoughts, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small solar system. Hana looked at the numbers with surprise. Sir, the Vrexians think we have maybe a dozen destroyers at most. I know, Taemin said. And we're going to let them continue thinking that for now. Not because we want to deceive them, but because we don't want them to feel threatened. They're adapting to the idea that they're not alone at the top. Revealing our full strength right now might push them into feeling surrounded and vulnerable. But won't they discover the truth eventually? Minho asked. Of course, Taemin replied. And when they do, we want it to be in a context of established friendship and trust. By then, they'll see us as allies who happen to be strong, rather than threats who are hiding their power. Jiwan leaned back in her chair. That's actually quite clever, sir. We're managing their fear by controlling the rate of revelation. Exactly. We learned this approach from our own history. Taemin switched the display to show historical data. When humanity first went to space, we encountered 6 hostile species in our first 100 years. 3 of them attacked us on sight because they were afraid of us. We learned that being too open about our capabilities could be as dangerous as hiding them completely. So we show enough to earn respect, Hana said, understanding, but not enough to inspire fear, correct? And this approach extends beyond just military strength. Every aspect of our civilization is built on layers of redundancy and preparation. We have colony worlds the Vrexians don't know about. We have research facilities developing technologies we haven't revealed. We have protocols for scenarios they can't imagine. Minho looked thoughtful. It's like what you always say, sir. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's been humanity's guiding principle since we left Earth, Taemin confirmed. We hope the Vrexians will be lasting allies. We're building genuine friendship with them. But we're also prepared for the possibility that things could go wrong. Not because we expect them to, but because we've learned that the universe doesn't care about our expectations. The briefing continued for another hour, covering diplomatic developments, technological exchanges, and future plans. When it ended, the officers filed out, each one carrying the weight of classified knowledge and the responsibility that came with it. Back in the laboratory, Dr. Hune and Counselor Pixtech had moved on to discussing the philosophical differences between their species. I've noticed something interesting about human culture, Pixtech said. You have a concept called Murphy's Law. It states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Hyun laughed. Yes, we're very familiar with Murphy's Law. It's shaped our entire approach to engineering and planning. But doesn't such pessimism become depressing? It's not pessimism, Hyun explained. It's realism. Murphy's Law doesn't mean we expect failure. It means we prepare for all possible failures so that when they happen, we can handle them. Every human ship has backup systems for the backup systems. Every colony has emergency protocols. Every plan has contingencies. Because your world taught you that nature doesn't care about your survival, Pixtech said with understanding. Exactly. Earth was a harsh teacher, but she taught us well. We learned to survive by being ready for anything. And that mindset followed us into space. Pixtech was quiet for a moment. The Vrexian Empire grew powerful because we conquered weaker species. We built our strength on dominance. But humanity built their strength on survival. I think that's why your small fleet is so formidable. Every ship is designed as if it's the last line of defense. Because in our history it sometimes was, Hyun said softly. We've faced extinction multiple times. We survived by refusing to give up, by building stronger, by preparing better. It's in our DNA now, this drive to survive no matter what. 2 days later, a formal meeting was held in the station's conference room. Supreme Analyst Vector, now serving as head of Joint Intelligence Operations, met with Commander Taemin for the first time in person. The two sat across from each other, each one representing their civilization's military and intelligence services. Commander Taemin, Vector said, offering the traditional Vrexian greeting. I've wanted to meet you since the incident 6 months ago. Analyst Vector, Taemin responded with the appropriate gesture. I've heard good things about your work. The cultural exchange program has been very successful. The Vrexian Imperial Council chamber was a massive room, built from dark stone that had witnessed 3,000 years of decisions. Today, every seat was filled. Empress Vrixana sat on her throne at the center, her royal robes flowing around her like water. Around her, the council members waited in tense silence. Fleet Commander Kixral stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small despite his military rank. He had just finished explaining the incident with the human ship. The silence that followed his report was heavy with judgment. "Let me understand this correctly," Empress Vrixana said, her voice calm but carrying an edge like a knife. "You ordered 3 of our destroyers to intercept and threaten a single unknown vessel, and that vessel disabled all 3 ships in less than 1 second without suffering any damage itself." "Yes, Your Majesty," Kixral replied, keeping his voice steady. "The human ship used weapons we had never encountered before. They were precise, controlled, and devastating. The crew survived, but the ships were completely disabled." War Marshal Kethron, the head of all Vrexian military forces, stood up. He was old, his scales bearing the scars of countless battles. "I have reviewed the sensor data from the incident. The human ship barely used any power at all. The energy signature from their attack was minimal. This means one of 2 things. Either they have weapons so efficient that they require almost no power, or they were holding back significantly." "Holding back?" another council member asked. "Why would they hold back?" "Because they didn't want to kill anyone," Supreme Analyst Vector said from his position near the data displays. "They could have destroyed all 3 destroyers. Instead, they chose to disable them. This suggests they have some form of moral code about unnecessary violence." Empress Vrixana considered this. "Or they were showing us mercy because they felt confident they could destroy us later if needed." The chamber filled with uncomfortable murmurs. The idea that any species would feel confident enough to show mercy to the Vrexian Empire was disturbing. "What do we know about these humans?" the Empress asked. Vector activated the main display, showing all the information they had gathered over the past week. "Not much, Your Majesty. They come from a planet called Earth in a region of space we've never explored. Their world is classified as a death world with extreme dangers in every environment." The display showed images of Earth, with its violent weather, active tectonic zones, and dangerous wildlife. The council members stared in surprise. Life rarely evolved on death worlds, and when it did, it usually remained primitive. "They've been spacefaring for approximately 400 years, Vector continued. "In that time, they've survived 3 extinction-level events, 2 civil wars, and hostile contact with 6 different alien species. Each conflict made them adapt and grow stronger." War Marshal Kethron studied the data carefully. 400 years. "We've been in space for 6,000 years, yet they've achieved technology that matches or exceeds ours. Their rate of advancement is incredible." "Or terrifying," another council member added. Vector pulled up tactical analyses. "I ran wargame simulations using the data we have about their capabilities. I programmed different scenarios of conflict between the Vrexian Empire and humanity." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "Every scenario ends badly, Your Majesty. Either in mutual destruction or worse." "Worse?" The Empress leaned forward. "What could be worse than mutual destruction?" "Total Vrexian defeat," Vector said quietly. "If their destroyer-class ships are this powerful, we can only imagine what their true battleships are like. And we have no idea how many ships they have. One simulation suggested they could have hundreds of vessels with similar or greater capabilities." The chamber erupted in voices. Council members argued, some demanding immediate military action, others calling for caution. Empress Vrixana raised her hand, and silence fell instantly. "Show me their military doctrine," she commanded. Vector pulled up translated documents they had intercepted from human communication networks. "Their military philosophy is built on a single principle: overwhelming, decisive force. Every human warship is overbuilt with redundant systems. They design their vessels to continue fighting even when heavily damaged. Their doctrine states, hope for the best, prepare for the worst." "They sound paranoid," a council member observed. "They sound like survivors," War Marshal Kethron corrected. "When you evolve on a death world and survive multiple extinction events, paranoia becomes wisdom." Vector pulled up more data. "There's something else, Your Majesty. Human soldiers train in conditions that would kill most species. They practice in extreme gravity, hostile environments, and with minimal life support. Their training exercises are designed to simulate worst-case scenarios." The display showed video recordings of human military training. Council members watched in silence as human soldiers moved through environments that looked like nightmare landscapes, carrying heavy equipment, working as perfect teams despite the hostile conditions. "They're built for war," someone whispered. "No," War Marshal Kethron said. "They're built for survival. War is just one aspect of that." Empress Vrixana studied the videos carefully. "What else should we know about their culture?" Vector hesitated. "Your Majesty, there's a concept in human military history called scorched earth. It means that if they cannot win a battle, they will destroy everything rather than let their enemies claim victory. They would rather burn their own worlds than surrender them." The chamber fell silent. That level of determination was both admirable and terrifying. "We have 3 options," Empress Vrixana said finally. "War, isolation, or diplomacy. Let's discuss each one." War Marshal Kethron spoke first. "War is not advisable, Your Majesty. We don't know their full capabilities, their fleet size, or their strategic resources. Additionally, their demonstrated restraint suggests they don't want war. If we force a conflict, we might push them into a total war scenario. And based on their history and doctrine, they would not stop until one side was completely destroyed." "Isolation?" The Empress looked at another council member. "We could close our borders to them, refuse all contact. But if they continue exploring this region of space, conflict becomes inevitable. Isolation only delays the problem." "Diplomacy, then," Vrixana said. "We reach out to them. We apologize for the incident and request formal talks." Several council members protested immediately. "The Empire doesn't apologize. We are the dominant power in this region." Empress Vrixana stood, her presence commanding absolute silence. "Pride is worthless if it leads to extinction. We made a mistake by threatening them. A wise leader admits mistakes and seeks to correct them. I will not let our empire fall because we were too proud to say we were wrong." She turned to her communication officer. "Send a formal message to the humans. Express our regret for the incident and request diplomatic talks. Make it clear we seek peaceful relations." The message was sent immediately, traveling through space via quantum communication. The response came back faster than expected. A hologram appeared in the center of the council chamber, showing a human woman in a formal diplomatic uniform. "Greetings," the woman said in perfect Vrexian language. "I am Ambassador Sujin of the Human Federation. We received your message and appreciate your willingness to seek peaceful resolution." Empress Vrixana approached the hologram. "Ambassador, I speak for the Vrexian Empire when I say we regret the incident with your vessel. Our forces acted hastily based on incomplete understanding. We seek to establish formal relations with your people." Ambassador Sujin smiled warmly. "We accept your apology, Empress. We understand that first contact situations can be complicated. The commander of the Defiant Dawn reported that he believed your forces were testing us, rather than genuinely threatening us. He chose to respond with minimal force to prove our capabilities without causing permanent harm. Your commander showed wisdom and restraint." Vrixana acknowledged. "Humanity has learned many hard lessons about the cost of unnecessary conflict," Sujin replied. "We prepare for war but always prefer peace. We knew we would eventually encounter advanced civilizations as we explored space. We built our ships to be strong enough to earn respect, but we always hoped to use that strength to prevent violence rather than cause it." War Marshal Kethron stepped forward. "If I may ask, Ambassador, how many ships does humanity possess?" Sujin's expression became carefully neutral. "That is classified military information, Marshal. However, I can tell you that the Defiant Dawn is indeed a destroyer-class vessel, one of our smaller combat ships. We have larger vessels, and we have many of them. But we also have cargo ships, science vessels, colony ships, and exploration craft. Humanity is not solely focused on war." "But you're prepared for it," Kethron observed. "Always," Sujin confirmed. "We cannot afford to be otherwise. But being prepared for war doesn't mean we want it." Empress Vrixana nodded slowly. "We would like to propose a cultural exchange program and trade negotiations. Perhaps we can learn from each other." "We would welcome that," Sujin agreed. "Humanity has much to gain from friendship with the Vrexian Empire. We know of your long history and your achievements. We hope we can build a relationship based on mutual respect and understanding."